Don't be shocked. This video is gonna be very Cupidesque. So maybe you pulled the lover card and you think, wow, romance, wedding bells, my soulmate is gonna appear by enchantment. And maybe not, maybe yes, but maybe not, because the lover card is having an identity crisis that's been going on for 600 years. It's been a wedding announcement, a Greek mythology pop quiz, a medieval warning about not listening to your heart, Adam and Eve getting kicked out of paradise, and many other things. So today we are diving into why this card cannot stick to a single meaning, why Cupid went from cute to concerning, and how a phallus in a basket ended up being very relevant to your spiritual journey. Oh, and an important thing, tarot didn't appear fully formed with a clean PDF of meaning and a content strategy. Tarot is a historical object, which means it changes constantly. Every era projects its own anxieties into the cards, and the Lovers is particularly good at absorbing collective neuroses. This card, like every other card, doesn't tell you the truth. It tells you what a culture was worried about when it drew it. The origin of the Lovers is just two people getting married. The oldest surviving tarot deck, the Visconti Sforza, is very straightforward. It's literally a wedding photo. Historians agree that this depicts the marriage of Bianca Maria Visconti and Francesco Sforza. No drama, no moral dilemma, just two people saying, yes, I do. The Cupid is there to emphasize the fact that this is not a marriage of convenience. It is true love, which in Renaissance Italy was quite rare. And then the 17th century happened and everything went sideways. Enter Hercules and his terrible life choices. By the 1600s, the happy couple vanishes. In their place, a young dude standing between two women. This is Hercules at the crossroads, based on the parable of Prodigus. On one side, Vice, a woman with flowers in her hair, looking fun, sexy, promising pleasures and good times. On the other side, Virtue, severe, serious, promising peace of the soul. Vice goes first. She's like, hey Hercules, come hang out. Life is short. I have wine, I have music, I have... And Virtue interrupts. Yeah, but you're gonna die, dude. All that pleasure? Temporary. Meanwhile, I offer you eternal glory through virtuous deeds. Your name in history books. Legends sung about you. Hercules asks, could I get both? Answer, no, of course you cannot get both. It showed up in educational treatises where they would tell the students, choose the virtuous path, kids, or you're screwed. You'll end up or as a respected hero or as a dead loser who had fun once. Now let's talk about the flying baby in the room. Why Cupid is kind of terrifying. In most Marseille-style decks, Cupid has a blindfold, which means he cannot see what he's doing. He's operating a heavy weapon while blind. This is dangerous. The blindfold represents that love is blind, of course, and not in a cute way, in a this is gonna be a disaster way. Medieval and Renaissance thinkers describe Cupid as cruel, deceitful, inconsistent, capable of turning lovers into torches that burn and making them lose all reason. Passion was seen as one of the passions of the soul, meaning obstacles, things that get in the way of proper thinking. So when the lovers show up here, the message is not follow your heart. It's your heart is an idiot and it will betray you. One of the most influential texts was the Roman de la Rose, 21,000 verses about love. In it, a young man enters a paradise garden, sees a beautiful rose, and bam! Cupid shoots him right in the heart. The text is very clear. The arrow causes great suffering. Love is described as a joyful pain, a sweet cruelty, a paradise of suffering, an inferno of delight, a prison where prisoners find pleasure. So basically, love is confusing as hell. Something you absolutely do not want to escape, even though it hurts terribly and will ruin your life. Love is dangerous. Desire makes you stupid. Please remain virtuous. By the way, in some early tarot decks, Cupid is the lower of all trump cards. Lowest. That's how much they trusted this guy. Wait, is that a phallus in a basket? Oh yes, we're going there. Some scholars have noticed that the woman at the right of the lover makes a suggestive gesture with her hands. She's gesturing towards the man's nether regions, I don't know if we can say that, and the young man has bare legs, which led us suppose that the rest of his body is too. This gesture shows up in Greek ceramics depicting a bacchant who makes the exact same gesture. There's also a Nemesis amphora showing Dionysus between two women, one making this gesture while the other is being grabbed by a satyr. There's also a Roman mosaic from Gemilla showing a bacchant kneeling down and literally grabbing a phallus from a basket. So the lover card might actually be referencing Dionysian rituals, moments where virtue is no longer required and carnal desires are not just acceptable but celebrated, which is a very wild thing to sneak in a deck of cards at the time. 20th century strikes back, free will enters the chat. By the early 1900s, the lover card starts picking up a new vibe. Occultists, like Papus, start defining it as freedom. Oswald de Weert describes it as sentiment, free will, trial. In France, the Marseille tradition doubles down with the idea that this card represents a choice to be made. Weert even removes Cupid's blindfold from his deck. Now Cupid can see, and he's waiting for the young man to make a conscious decision. So the card becomes less about romance there than exercising your willpower. It's like the deck is going full Freemason. Then in 1909, Arthur Edward Waite shows up and rewrites everything. He says, you know what, all of you are wrong, let's start over. So he commissions Pamela Colman Smith to create a totally new imagery with Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden and an archangel blessing them. Waite writes in the pictorial key to the tarot, simply put, this is the card of human love, represented here as part of the way, the truth, and the life. It replaces the old marriage card and the later imbecilities that showed a man between vice and virtue. Imbecilities. He called the Urkel's interpretation imbecilities. Waite wants this card to represent pure love, uncorrupted by gross physical desire. He was writing before the sexual revolution, which explains a lot. He changes the card name from the lover, singular, to the lovers, plural, to emphasize the partnership. But here is where it gets interesting. Waite describes it as the card of aliens, meaning the covenant between God and humanity. And there's no covenant without free will, and there's no free will without the fall. Here is the thing about the serpent in the Garden of Eden. Eden? He doesn't force Eve to eat the apple. He just tells her it's possible. God said, eat this and you'll die. And the serpent said, actually, you won't die and you'll gain knowledge. Suddenly, Eve has a choice. Before the serpent, she didn't even know that she could choose. The serpent gives her free will by showing her that disobedience is an option. Eve eats the apple. She becomes conscious. She gains knowledge of good and evil. And they just get kicked out of Eden. Not cool. So in esoteric traditions, this is seen as something positive. The serpent represents consciousness, awakening, and liberation. Eve's choice is the first act of human autonomy. So in Pamela Coleman Smith's illustration, Eve is looking up at the archangel, and he's not threatening her. He looks welcoming. It's almost like he's blessing her choice, which is kind of subversive as hell if you think about it. And which means that the fall is actually the first act of free will, awareness, consciousness. So the lovers here maybe represents the moment where innocence ends and individuation begins. So after the Waite and Smith redesign, most of modern tarot decks are following their lead. The lovers become a card showing a couple in love, usually heterosexual, usually blessed by a higher power. The Morgan Greer Tarot brings back sensuality, bodies that actually want each other, while keeping the purity symbolism. And this is post-sexual revolution, which means body desires are not anymore something to be ashamed of. This is where French tarot readers who stuck with Marseille's style deck would look at the Anglo readers and go, hey, but you lost the whole concept of choice, which was the entire point of the card. And the Anglo would answer, oh, we replaced it with Eden. 2020s, the lovers go introspective. So in recent years, tarot creators have been rethinking the card of the lovers in ways that go beyond just two people kissing. The fifth spirit tarot shows a gender non-conforming person looking at their reflection with joy, not looking outward for a partner, but looking inward at themselves. This brings the lovers full circle back to an idea that's been lurking underneath all these centuries of evolution, the reconciliation of inner contradictions. If you read the lovers through a Jungian lens, which tarot people love to do, the card isn't just about romantic partnership. It's about your rational side, masculine energy, making peace with your intuitive side, feminine energy. Your conscious self, learning to trust your higher self, basically different parts of you coming to harmony. This interpretation works whether you see Adam as logic and Eve as emotion, or whether you see them as two facets of a single psyche trying to cooperate. It's about loving yourself, about accepting all your contradictions, which in a way is way harder than finding somebody to date. Now, what I'm gonna say is shocking. Don't be shocked by what I'm gonna say. My personal take about the lovers. It talks about Flavio and Isabella from Commedia dell'arte. This is obvious. Think about it. The theatrical, the over-the-top nature of the figures, the stylized gestures, the performance of love and choice. Commedia dell'arte emerged at the 16th century, exactly when tarot was evolving. And Flavio and Isabella are the innamorati, the lovers, caught in endless dramatic entanglements, torn between passion and propriety, always performing their feelings with exaggerated gestures. Not just showing us a choice in a relationship, it's showing us love as theater, as performance. And to me, that makes more sense than anything we've covered until now. Tell me what you think. Commedia dell'arte, that's the answer for everything. Life is a commedia. So, okay, what is the lover card about? It depends from which century you're asking from. It can be a wedding photo, a morality tale, a warning about emotional decision making, or a call to self-acceptance. It can be all of that, because again, tarot is a mirror, because every generation looks at these cards and sees its own concerns reflected back. And it will continue evolving because we continue evolving. So maybe the card that couldn't make up its mind for 600 years turns out that this was the whole point all along. because life is messy, because love is contradictory, because choices are very hard to make. And sometimes you need a card that reflects this whole chaotic thing. Okay, thank you very much for watching. I really hope that you learned something. I learned a lot from doing this video. And if you are still confused about the lover card, congratulations. That means you understood it perfectly. And see you next time. Maybe we'll tackle the Chariot, which is basically a guy in a box with a Commedia dell'arte masks on his shoulders. It's gonna be weird. Okay, thank you. Take care. Bye bye.